All right, hello, hello. Happy Monday evening, June 19th, 2023. Welcome. I hope that you've had exactly the kind of day that you needed. And I trust that that is so. Whether it's what you wanted or not may be a different question or another story, but here we are, and this is why I love offering this Monday night, or maybe you practice this on a Tuesday night, any night. It's why I love offering this evening practice, because we don't know how every day is going to go. And we don't know if it's going to be a really challenging day or if it's going to be magically wonderful. And either way, what we can know is that we can always come back to our mat to process whatever it is that we experienced. And life is always happening. So it's not a one and done, right? It's not one practice and we've solved it all. I've done yoga once and now I know what to expect from here on out. It's never like that. And I'll elaborate a little bit more on my own experience of this once we get onto the mat. So for now, welcome, and let's get settled in. If you have blocks and a blanket, I welcome you to bring them by your mat. A bolster, even better. I like to have all of the props just ready to go. Part of that is just so that you give yourself all the tools that you need to meet yourself with where you're at. If we come to a point in this practice where your body or your mind or your energy is saying no more or change this, then I want you to feel like you can do that. So having those props around can definitely support you in that way. And at times too, they can even challenge you. So if your body's saying like, go further, you can also use blocks to add challenge. So I will meet you in Sukhasana, or easy seat, which is just a cross-legged seat. You might choose to use one of those props right away, sitting up on a block or a bolster, or I was gifted this really beautiful, it's like a beanie foam meditation cushion. And so maybe you just want to sit on something like that to start today. And what that does is it just elevates your hips above the knees, so it allows everything to open up a little more right from the get-go. Letting yourself arrive in this moment. It's a good place to be reminded that this is a process. This practice of coming to your mat again and again is a process. Practicing yoga is a process. Living life, experiencing life is a process. And so as you begin to drop in, just remind yourself kindly that this is a process. And it doesn't need to all happen at once. In fact, this is the beauty and the magic of this practice, is starting to observe and befriend this process. So as you settle in here, you might take a few deep breaths. You might bring some awareness into your spine, into your shoulders, your neck. And as you settle in and begin to drop in, I want to share with you my experience this morning in my yoga practice. This morning when I woke up to my alarm, I had to use the restroom really badly, so I popped out of bed and went to use the restroom, and it was honestly such a gift. As much as, so this is where my process began, is this initial waking up, feeling some resistance to getting out of bed. And mind you, I've been getting up at 6 or before 6 a.m. pretty much every single day, with a few exceptions, for about 1.5 years or 2 years straight. But still, this morning at 6 a.m., I was resistant. So I went to the bathroom and I just wanted to go back to bed. Like, my mind was just taking over, or trying to take over, and it was trying to say, you're tired, go back to sleep, you can rest. And at times that's true, but for me today, I heard a wiser part of me saying to go to the mat. And so I started taking it step by step, literally step by step through my apartment. Instead of turning to go to the bedroom, I took a step in the opposite direction to go into this yoga room. Step by step, I put out a mat. I already had my bolster sitting here. I saw the wood incense that I had on my altar behind me, and I thought this would be a good way to start this morning, because I didn't really want to move. I didn't really want to sit down or meditate or practice, but I could take the step of lighting this incense, and so I did that. And I smudged myself and I smudged the space step by step. And then I was able to sit down. And all this time, there's that mind component saying to just lie down on your mat. Just go to sleep here. Look, you've already done this. It's enough. Just go to sleep here. You can rest on your mat for a little while. But the wiser part of me said, let's meditate. So I sat on this bolster and I set a timer for 5 minutes, and I put my hands together. And I invite you to follow me in this process here if you'd like. I put my hands together and I rested them at the heart, and I heard my inner voice guiding me into this meditative space. I felt the connection between my hands. I became aware of my breath, and at the same time, I continued to feel the resistance. The mind wanting to go back to bed or lay down on the mat. A part of me that felt tired. The part of me where my mind started to go off in a million directions about what comes next in my day. And the wiser part of me had a strong enough voice to say, sit still. And this practice wasn't perfect, so let's put in air quotes. It wasn't perfectly still. I was fidgety, my mind was racing, but I stayed here until that timer went off, and I breathed, and I observed. And I invite you in this process to observe what is happening for you here and now. Is there resistance? Is there an emotion? Is there a sensation? Observe that and sit with it. And so step by step, I did begin to move gently, some restorative poses, and then moving into some flow, but it was step by step, just allowing myself to take each baby step, whatever that looked like next, and listening and honoring this process. And I tell you this because this is where the magic is. You can't see this process when you look at a pose on Instagram or hear somebody talk about yoga in passing or even read an article. You can only experience this for yourself. And I tell you this because this is the process that sets me up in my life, that helped me get through a very busy day, helped me stay calm and centered. Not perfect, but it helped. And so let us here take a few silent moments to observe. I promise wherever you're at, you're doing great. Being here is doing it right. You can allow your hands to come down to the knees or thighs. If you're sitting up on something, you might choose to remove that here as we begin to move a bit. Bringing your attention back into your spine, I invite you to sit up nice and tall and loop the shoulders a few times up towards the ears and down the back. And you might choose to synchronize your breath in some way or just become more aware of the breath. And then taking the arms all the way up and overhead and interlacing the fingers at the top, pressing the palms up and away. And taking a nice big stretch here. Start to lean a little side to side, just exploring that side body space, noticing if one side feels a little different than the other. Then bringing the hands through the middle, press the hands forward, the palms forward, and round the spine, tucking the chin towards your chest. And as you release, sweep the hands around the back and interlace the fingers at the small of the back, drawing the knuckles down, draw open the chest, and lift the chin. If you can, draw the hands away from the back. And do your best to breathe into any sensation here across the chest or in the shoulders or throat. Release the arms. Switch the cross of the legs. And again, take a few loops with the shoulders. Maybe you go the opposite direction or one at a time this time. Taking the arms up and overhead, interlace the fingers. Try to put the opposite thumb on top. You'll know because it'll feel weird. And press your hands up towards the sky. Lots of space in the spine. And again, start to go a little side to side. And as you come through the middle, press the palms forward, round the back. And release the hands, bringing them behind the back. Interlace the fingers, the other thumb on top, the one that feels a little funky. And lift your chest, reach the hands away. Make some space in your throat. And release to come back through center. Lift your gaze up towards the sky. Drop your chin down towards the chest.
Relax the jaw and all the areas around the face and neck. Just bringing awareness into this area.
So we take some simple movements, lifting the gaze up, dropping the gaze down. Now taking the gaze to center, drop your right ear towards the right shoulder. And left ear to left shoulder. Notice if there's a difference between sides and either choose to hold one side or the other, or maybe alternate side to side. You might roll between left to right side. If it feels okay, you might take a full roll with the neck, but you can play around with what you need right now. Maybe even moving the jaw around. Sometimes opening and closing the mouth can bring some awareness into this connection. And bringing the gaze back to center. And we'll just take a little shoulder stretch, taking the arms out to a T shape. Sit up nice and tall through the spine. Take the left arm across. Little shoulder stretch here. You can drop that shoulder down. Gentle tug with the opposite hand. Option to take the gaze over the shoulder. And just observe your breath here. Observe as you begin to breathe in these postures, the nuances of from pose to pose. And then the gaze comes back to center. We'll open up the arms into a T. You might notice a difference between sides. And then switching. Keep it simple. Gaze can come over the shoulder. And drawing the breath down and into the belly. Opening the arms to a T. And then we'll come forward right over top of the shins, or you can swing the legs out to the sides. Oops. Still a mystery why this camera likes to go off on its own, but here we are. So we'll come on over into tabletop. And as you arrive here, just wag your tail side to side. If the knees are tender, place a blanket underneath of the knees. And we'll move through really slow cow and cat. Belly lowers, look forward. And spine rounds, chin draws in. You know the drill. But I invite you to pay special attention into more subtle sensations or whatever sensations you can notice. This practice helps us be more honest with ourselves as we're put in a position to really look at what's going on. It's definitely possible to hide from yourself on the mat, but I hope with practice and encouragement that you find that courage to face yourself here. And when you finish the cycle that you're on, we'll lower down onto the forearms for a puppy pose. Half puppy is a great place to start. From here, you might extend the arms all the way out, bringing forehead to the mat. And the arms are more engaged here than child's pose, so pressing into the palms, extending fully through fingertips. And then letting the back of the heart melt into the front of the heart. And we'll take about 4 more breaths. If it feels open, you might be able to bring chin to the mat, but no pressure to do that. You can play around, see if it works today.
And then lifting up through the heart. Start to walk those hands back just a little bit and then lift on up to tabletop.
Keep the right hand down, lifting the left arm up into a twist. And we'll thread the needle, sending it underneath of the right arm and lowering onto left shoulder and left ear. Extend your right arm towards the top edge of your mat. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Breathing in, breathing out. Just let yourself be here. Breathing in, breathing out, and observing. Bring your right hand back towards the face, press up into your tabletop, right into the other side as you breathe in and twist the right arm up. And exhale to thread the needle. Lower down onto the shoulder, extend the left arm. Notice if the hips have started to bump off towards the left, invite them back right over top of the knees, right in the center of the mat. So becoming more aware of the entire body. It's natural to notice the strong sensations at first. And that's perfectly fine. That's a great place to start. Even just noticing any sensation is a great place to start. But just knowing there's subtleties to it. So maybe starting to get curious and seeing what's below the surface of that strong sensation. For some people, there's no sensation at first, so maybe getting curious of what's beneath the surface of that. And we'll bring the left hand back and press up into tabletop. And spreading the knees a little wider here, big toes come to touch, and sit back in child's pose. Arms walking forward. Stretch the spine out as far as you can, and then let the head come down to the mat or to the block. On an inhale, come forward to tabletop, tuck your toes, and lift up to plank pose. Begin to pedal through the heels. Make sure those hands are right underneath of the shoulders, and pressing up into the dome of the upper back. The neck is long. And then we'll lift the hips up and come into downward facing dog. And you might continue the pedaling of the feet here. Or maybe you choose a little different movement now, shaking the head or moving the hips around or lifting the legs. Begin to walk or step to the front of your mat and finding yourself in a forward fold. Knees might be a little soft. You can hold on to opposite elbows for ragdoll and let the weight of the arms and head provide some traction through the spine. You can move or sway if that feels good. Playing around with the balance in the feet, so you might wiggle the toes a bit, just feeling into the sensation under the heels and balls of the feet. An invitation to let something go. Mentally, physically, emotionally. Let it go. And then literally let go of the elbows if you're holding on and bend the knees and slowly roll yourself up to stand and go slowly so you can feel the core engage subtly as it lifts the spine and the head and the hands down by the sides. meeting in Tadasana at the very front of the mat. We'll begin to go through a flow here. So our pace will speed up a little bit, but it's an invitation, of course, to always meet yourself with where you're at. That's why, again, those props here are handy if you have them to support yourself. Hi, Max. So let's begin here, synchronizing the breath and the movement. Inhale and reach your arms overhead. Exhale, hinge from the hips, fold down. Step your right foot back and lower the right knee down, low crescent lunge. Inhale, arms sweep up overhead, and exhale, hands come down to the mat. Tuck your toe and step back into downward facing dog. Take a moment, reach through the heels, spread those hands nice and wide. Cycle of the breath. Inhale, come forward to plank pose and lower down through chaturanga. Either knees down or lifted, your choice, one straight line. Now when you get down to the mat, rest your left forearm underneath of you and lift up the head and shoulders into a little cobra-like shape. And bend the right knee. Now make sure the pubic bone is pressing down so we're not overarching the low back, just lengthening the tailbone, and reach back for that right foot. And you can gently kick into the hand to open through the right chest, engage through the right quad. And release. Switch sides, right forearm down, left knee bends, reach back. You may give it a little stretch at first and then kick into the hand like you do in dancer pose. And then release from this side and come through the middle, bringing the palms right under the shoulders. Zip the legs up together for cobra. Press into the hands, lift up to your extent of a back bend, and then lift all the way up into downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg lifts. Step through between the hands, left foot meets the right, forward fold atop of the mat. Inhale to reverse swan dive. Exhale, Tadasana. Let's keep it going. Inhale, arms up. Exhale and fold. Palms down, left foot steps back, lower the knee. Inhale, one breath, low crescent lunge. Exhale, hands to the mat, downward facing dog. Inhale to plank pose. Exhale, chaturanga. All the way to the mat. Bring the forearms underneath of you this time for Sphinx pose. Good. Bend the right knee. Look over the right shoulder. Lower the right foot, gaze to center. Bend the left knee, look over left shoulder. Lower the left toes, come back to center. Lower down for cobra, hands under shoulders, elbows hugging in. Inhale, press, and lift all the way up through the hips, downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, step through, right foot meets the left, forward fold. Inhale, reverse, come up to stand. Exhale, Tadasana. Continuing, inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back, keep the knee lifted. Actually, let's lower that right knee down one more time. But we're gonna go a little differently here. So instead of rising up with the arms, bend your right knee. Lift the left arm up and see if you can find the toes behind you. And maybe you don't reach the toes, that's okay. You can just go in that direction. If you do find the toes, gently kick into the hand. And feel the spine rotating, the left chest opening, that right shoulder strong, stable in the joint. Breathe here. Beautiful. Release the back toe. Left hand comes down. Now lift the back knee for high crescent lunge. Strong legs as we rise up, arms overhead. And
Exhale, hands to the mat, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale to plank pose. Exhale, chaturanga, all the way or halfway down. Inhale to cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg lifts, bend the knee, open the hip. Straighten the leg, three-legged dog, step through between the hands, left foot meets the right and fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, ground, Tadasana. Inhale, arms up, maybe a little back bend at the top. Exhale, fold. Left foot steps back, lower the left knee. Switching it up, just like our other side. Bend the left knee. Right arm sweeps out and up. That left shoulder stabilizing, the eye of the elbow rotating forward. And then reach back for the toes. Maybe you'll find them opening through the chest, rotating through the spine. Again, make sure you're not collapsed in the left shoulder. If you found those toes, gently kick into the hand. Breathe. Release the toes, circle the right hand back down. Lift the back knee, high crescent lunge, press into the feet, rise up, inhale at the top, and exhale, hands to the mat, downward facing dog. Inhale to your plank pose to go through a flow. Exhale, lower. Cobra, or maybe up dog, thighs lifted. Downward facing dog. Inhale, left leg lifts, bend the knee, open the hip, stacking, letting that heel dip back behind you. Straighten the leg, square off the hip, step through between the hands, right foot meets the left and fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, Tadasana, let's keep it going. Inhale, arms up, maybe baby back bend. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back, keep it lifted. Inhale, arms up, crescent, warrior two. Exhale, peaceful warrior, extended side angle. Pause here for a moment, bringing right hand to the hip. Open right shoulder. Take that right arm up to the sky. Turn the palm up and then start to circle like you're spinning a pizza pie and opening up through the wrist and all through those energy lines through the shoulder. Feeling your way through that. It might help to circle the wrist if it feels a little tight. And then we'll bring that right hand back down to the mat. Engage in the core to protect the back as you move. And then stepping back into your plank pose. Now hold nice and strong here. Feel into it. Observe the process. Great job. Lower down to your mat, chaturanga. Cobra up dog, find your back bend. Downward facing dog. Now bend the knees, gaze forward, walk, step, or float to the front of your mat and fold. Find a chair pose as you sit back, arms reach up. And we're gonna go right into the other side from here. So bringing the hands down to the mat, step the left foot back, high crescent lunge. Inhale, arms up. Warrior two, exhale. Peaceful warrior, extended side angle. Wave the left hand down to the hip and open the chest. Left arm comes overhead, turn the palm up, or maybe start by circling the wrist. Just see how it feels on this side. And then the palm turns up
And we're going to circle through this left shoulder. Now stay really connected and engaged through the low belly. And feel into that left shoulder. Maybe like you're trying to smear paint on the sky. And again, check in with that wrist. If it feels a little tight here, maybe go back to circling the wrist. Make sure that the low back is still supported, tailbone drawing down towards the back heel. Whole body awareness. And left hand comes down to the mat. Step back to plank, hold nice and strong. Come high onto the toes if you can. Align the heels right over toes. Brilliant. Lower down to your mat. Go through your flow of choice. Cobra or up dog. Down dog. Walk, step, or hop to the front of your mat. Chair pose. Good. From here, we're going to lower all the way down to a seat. See if you can do this without your hands. And when you get to the seat, find your boat pose. Finding that balance point. Excellent. From here, we're going to lower all the way down to the mat. And again, use the core. Do this without the hands if you can. And as you get to your mat, just take a moment to rest. We're not going to stay here yet. We still have a little flow that we're going to play with. Just a little intermission to feel into the hips before we bring it together. But in this moment, just a little breather. Observe how your practice has gone so far for you. Make sure and check in that you're honoring your body and what it needs today, and make any necessary adjustments. Now, draw the right knee in towards your chest. And you have the option here of either keeping the left leg extended or bending the left knee. So bending the left knee will make this a little easier on the low back. Reach for the outside edge of your right foot for half happy baby. And you can let your left arm just be a little counterbalance here and play around in this hip socket. Drawing knee towards armpit. And let go of the right foot. Send it down the mat. Take a mini moment to pause and notice. That looks like a great pillow, Max. He's using the meditation cushion as a pillow. And we'll go to the other side. So left knee coming in. Give it a hug. Go through your own process here as you breathe and notice. Turning it into a half happy baby as you reach for the outside edge of the foot, with the invitation for some movement, some play. And release, send both legs down the mat, just a mini moment to pause. I'll bend both of the knees, feet on the mat. Setting up for a bridge pose. Feet are right underneath the knees, fingers graze the heels, and then press into the feet and lift up the hips. You might interlace the fingers behind the back. And then lowering back down one segment at a time.
Feel into the spine as you lower. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Forehead comes to the knees, curl into a ball. Now, right back into your bridge pose. Lower the feet down, lower the head and hands. Press into the feet, lift up the hips. Lower the hips, knees into chest, curl into a ball. We'll do that one more time. Feet into the mat, press and lift hips, and lower the hips, curl into a ball. Lower the feet down, but space them about as wide as your mat, and windshield wiper the knees side to side. Rolling over outer hips, getting this nice internal and external rotation and balance. Maybe a little massage on the glutes if there's some tension here. And then we'll come back to center, hold behind the knees, and start to rock and roll. Or if that doesn't work, of course, just press yourself up. And when we get to a nice rock, we're going to roll over the legs and either step, or you could even hop back into your plank pose. And then we're going to meet in downward facing dog. Inhale your right leg to the sky. Bend the knee, open the hip. Straighten the leg and lower the toes down. Inhale, left leg lifts, bend the knee, open the hip. Lift the leg, lower the toes down. Come forward to plank pose, lower the right knee, open up that right foot like a kickstand for a half side plank. And then see if you can open the left shoulder a little bit. Leaning back. And bring it back through center. Switch sides. Side plank. And then opening the right arm. Bottom shoulder stabilizing. And bring it back to center. Come back through the middle. Plank to down dog. Walk, step, or float to the front of your mat. And fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, Tadasana. Now we're going to go through the last flow that we did, which was a crescent lunge to warrior two, peaceful to extended side angle. So a fairly traditional flow. We're going to add on one piece in our flow here, which we've kind of been building up to and opening the body to, which is rock star or wild thing. So just mentally you can kind of start to piece that together, this movement we've done through the shoulders and the hips, and now you know where we're going, so we can get into, or you can get into your own flow here. Find your own rhythm and pace. I'll guide us through it. Feel free to make it your own. So this will be our last flow, and then we'll come on down to the mat. Let's begin. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Right foot steps back, high crescent lunge. Warrior two. Peaceful warrior. Extended side angle. Come back to your warrior two, breathe in, and cartwheel hands down to the mat. Step back to three-legged downward dog. Left leg lifts. Bend the knee, open the hip. And we're going to open up here to our wild thing, our rock star, letting those left toes find the mat behind you and lifting up through the left arm, stabilizing through the right shoulder. Lower your hips just a bit to come out of the pose and then pop back around to a three-legged dog if you can. We're going to go through one more flow here, coming through plank. Lower down, option for three-legged chaturanga. You got it. Inhale, cobra or up dog, and downward facing dog. Breathe. Walk, step, or float to the front of your mat. Forward fold. Inhale, root to rise. And exhale, Tadasana. Good job. We have one more side. Inhale, arms up. Observe the whole body. Fold. Left foot steps back. High crescent lunge. Breathe in. Warrior two. Breathe out. Peaceful warrior. Find the ease. Extended side angle. Breathe out or in. Coming back to warrior two. Cartwheel the hands down to the mat. Three-legged dog. Right foot sweeps up. Bend the knee. Open the hip. Lifting up the right hand off the mat. Toes come down behind. And you open up in all the ways we have today. Hips and shoulder. Ribs. Lower the hips just a little to come out of the pose. Three-legged dog. Three-legged plank. If you can, make it your own. You got it. Chaturanga. Last one. Inhale, cobra up dog. Downward dog. Breathe. Ground. One more breath here. Lower the knees to the mat and sit back on your heels in hero's pose. Take a moment to observe. Physically, how are you feeling? You can just call out what it is that you notice without judgment. Emotionally, what are you noticing? Is there agitation or resistance? Worry about what you might be feeling, or anger? Mentally, how's the mind chatter? It's just part of our experience, right? It's just a part of our anatomy to have this thinking mind. And being able to take a step back from that on our yoga mat, to notice it, and to separate our true self, our wise self, from that chatter mind. And I'll add here spiritually. How are you feeling in your connection to something greater than yourself, whatever that is to you? Whether it's the ocean or God or universe. How are you feeling in connection with something larger than yourself? And we'll slow it down from here. So you can swing your legs out in front of you. And we'll come into a seated twist. So you can keep your left knee bent. And wrap the right arm around the shin. The right heel presses out gently. And then the left hand comes behind to support. And try to sit up nice and tall, feeling extension through the center of the spine and out through the crown of the head. What I notice very often here is people leaning forward, really bowing their head forward. So I invite you to feel into the back of your head and imagine you had a wall behind you to press up against. And then we'll come through center and just open up that left knee, squaring off towards the front leg, and enjoy a nice forward fold. Letting the chin bow down so that we're being guided through the third eye. Open through the crown. When we jut the chin forward, we sort of disconnect the mind from the body. We disconnect from this intuitive self and consciousness coming in through crown. So just becoming aware of how you hold the chin and how that affects that area of the spine. And lift back up, and we'll just switch sides. So same two poses here. We'll start with a seated twist, bending the right knee and hug around the shin. You might take your gaze over the back shoulder. Unwind, open the right knee for your fold. Notice where your attention is. Take a breath to recenter. And lifting back up. Send both legs forward and bend the knees, giving yourself room behind that you can roll on down, this time with support, holding behind the legs. And I invite you to come into a final resting pose. You might choose to take 2 resting poses. So I'll kind of guide you through that here. We'll take about 7 minutes to close. And so if you'd like, you might find constructive rest, or you might find a reclined cobbler's pose, or something maybe with the props that you have nearby. To just start to let go of this practice, let go of this day. And allow the magical inner workings of your energetic and physical anatomy to do its magnificent work of healing and balancing and guiding. So these last 7 minutes are for you to take these last pose or two. Feel into your wisdom. Feel into whatever it is that you need tonight. You'll go through your process, and the invitation is to listen. Listen to the wise part of you. Learn to discern between the mind chatter and the wisdom. As an example, you might notice that one part of yourself is saying, come on, time to go, we've got things to do. And the wise part of you might be saying, place a blanket under your neck, a pillow under your head. Place the hand on the belly and heart and listen. That's what the wise part might say. Thank you for allowing me to guide you through this practice. And whisper this gratitude to your own body and mind and self. Thank you for taking this step by step. That's all we can ask for. Thank you for showing up. And if you're practicing with someone else, or there's other people or beings in your home or world, send your gratitude to them. Thank you for being there. In whatever way you were, thank you. In whatever way you are, thank you. And extend that gratitude to the farthest reaches that you can imagine, to that thing or idea that's larger than any one of us. Send it out. Thank you. To God, to the universe, to the ocean, to Mother Nature. Thank you. Thank you for this moment. And just as you're ready, take your time. You can choose when the time is right to bend the knees, to begin to go through your process here of reawakening. And meeting back where we started in Sukhasana with our hands at prayer. And fingers sealed together. And a final moment of peace to embrace all of the gifts of your practice tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I send you my love and gratitude. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for, again, just allowing me to guide you through this practice. And I just have so much space for whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that your process is bringing you through. Here's to that space. Have a good night.